What's up?
Oh, what's going on?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Hey, thanks so much for taking some time tonight.
Oh, you got it.
All right, I saw something on Instagram. Were you waking up early with your child and doing a workout earlier
Yes.
this week?
Yeah, I make them watch. I put them right next to me.
What kind of workout are you doing at that hour?
I just do like circuit training, right? So I'll do like any type of I'll just like make up like a crazy workout and just do it, and I'll put the baby like right there so he can watch everything. Even though he doesn't really know what's going on, I know it's like gonna sink into his head.
Osmosis right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So awesome. I'm so excited to talk to you tonight. I want to dive into, so if you can talk about like your journey with dyslexia and what that looked like for you growing up. And then we're gonna get into the advocacy work you're doing because it's just so awesome. But if you could start there, I'd love just for the audience to kind of hear where it all started for you.
Right. So like for me, like dyslexia was just one of the things that I struggled with, but it was part of the whole situation. So as far as I can really remember, maybe like second grade, I remember like everyone knew how to tell time, right? And to tell time, and I couldn't figure out how to tell time. And I would bring like my plastic clock home, right, to my mom, and I just couldn't figure it out. And then I just gave up on it. And now, even now, I'm 31. I look at the clock and there's no numbers on it. Sometimes I don't even know what it says, right? But I never really got through that. And that was kind of my first experience where like I couldn't figure it out. And
Oh,
then I would slowly, we would be reading out loud in class, right? And I would notice that, I couldn't like nothing would like flow or sound good. And I would get all the words wrong, right? And I just couldn't do it like everyone else. And I was like, why do I sound like that? And why does the other student, sound so clear and so good? And I would just, I would try, I wasn't really getting into it yet, but I was kind of figuring out what was going on. And then
sure.
when I got to sixth grade, I started having anxiety, right? I didn't really know why at this point, but when I look back, I can figure it out. But in sixth grade, my dad would drive us to our bus stop. I had a twin brother and a sister, and we would all, we would get out of the car and we go on the bus. And as soon as I would hear those brakes of that school bus, my heart would start beating really fast, and I would get this anxiety attack, and I would freeze. And all the
Oh,
kids would jump out of the car and run to the bus, and I would just freeze and I would start to cry. And I wanted to run out with all the kids and be a normal kid, but I just couldn't do it. And I would hold on to the seat, and then until my dad would turn around, my anxiety would go away, right? And the bus would
oh,
drive away. So then I would go home, and my mom would like talk to me and try to calm me down. I would calm down, and then I would try to go to school, right? And I would never be able to make it, right? And I missed a lot of school, and I was just running from everything in my life because I couldn't feel normal in school, and I didn't want to go there anymore. But I was so young, I don't think I really knew what was going on.
sure.
And then I would just kind of get in trouble, right, in
Yeah.
school. And if I would go to school, I would act out, and I would try to figure out ways to get out of class, and I would avoid school, skip school. And I saw a lot of therapists, right, and I did that whole thing. My parents would bring me, and it would be like a new thing every time I would go. And I started to just get used to this situation in my life where I just wasn't good at school. I wasn't gonna ever be good at school, and I just took on this label of not being a good student. And then getting through middle school and into private school, right? My parents then tried me with this private school, right? And they said, Jordan, there's going to be more help for you there, right? They're gonna have small classes, and they're gonna work with you, and you're gonna do well there. And I went to the school. It was a private school in New Jersey. I ended up failing out, right? And when I failed out, I had to go back to public high school. And from all these negative experiences at that point, I'm in high school now, and I just kind of gave up on myself and, my life. And I just didn't think anything was next. So I just, did nothing. I didn't do anything. I remember I would go to school. I would sit in the back of the classroom. I just did, and I put my hood up and I did nothing. And I let that label of having an IEP and I was in this class called the studies. In high school you get like a study period, and
Yep.
if you're a normal student, you get a study period where you can do your homework or do things. I wasn't allowed to get a study period. I had to go to study skills, and study skills was an actual class. They graded you on how well you study, right? And I had to be monitored by a teacher and make sure I studied and make sure I did all these things. And I remember I wouldn't want to sit near the door so no one would see me in that room. And, and then you get associated with this group of kids, right? And then everyone would say, if Jordan's in our class, this is the easy class, right? All these things kind of went into my head. And I just thought that, this was my life. I always struggled. I never ever got like a test and said, hey, I know the answers, right? I can never figure it out. Or I would get a vocab test and, I would have a word bank and nobody else would. And some people would notice and they would say things and then I would still get to do bad on the test, right? Even though I had the word bank. And then, this would constantly happen. And then I would just, my self-esteem was kind of, at the bottom.
Yeah,
And,
it's gotta be.
I just kind of gave up. And all of a sudden I was a senior in high school, right? And I was like, what's next? Like, it's like everyone's like, talking about college and, wanting to pick a major. I didn't even know what a major was. I didn't even know there was something you picked to go to college. I had no idea what was next, right? And I didn't know where I wanted to go. And I remember going home and saying to my mom, and dad, like, am I supposed to go to college? And my mom was like, yeah, you're supposed to go to college. And then I remember one of the, I did one of those tests, with the, I talked about it on my TikTok, how you get those red and white blocks, right? And you got to sit there, and you got to make the shapes, with the red and white blocks. Right?
Yeah,
I
I know.
used to get called out of class in high school, and I would do these like tests once a year. And they would like ask me words to read and ask me to see how far I can read them. And I would never get past like the second word, right? And they would say, don't worry about it. There's no right answer. And it was my senior year. I remember my mom said to me, Jordan, please tell me, you didn't try. Your test scores were so low. And then the head of the child study team told my mom that, I can't go to a 4-year college. I don't do it, right? And I remember hearing my mom on the phone with her. I was upstairs. I was sitting at the top of the stairs. And I was like, wow, this, even this head of the child study team thinks I can't go. Maybe I really can't go. And I applied to 15 colleges, right? Because I had a twin brother doing the same thing. And I live in New Jersey. So it was New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, all those towns, all those states. And and my brother was getting, big envelopes back, right? Because he was getting in. I realized that if you get a small one, you're probably not getting in.
Yeah.
15 of them, I was like, wow, I didn't get into any colleges and I didn't get into any of them. And I had a 1.7 GPA. I had a very low self-esteem. I just wanted to really get accepted, but I didn't really want to go. I just wanted to say, hey, I got into college, on graduation day, right? And luckily, one of the guidance counselors saw me like kind of wandering around in the hallways, and the year was ending. And he's like, hey, Jordan, why don't you apply to this one school? Give it a shot. I know it's a reach at this point, but it might be a good school for you. So I applied, and he helped me fill out the Common App. We submitted it. And then 2 days before graduation, I got accepted to this college called Centenary University, which was formerly known as Centenary College. And I got the packet. My mom, fell to her knees. She couldn't believe it, right? And we opened it up, and it said I was accepted, but I didn't really read it because I never really read things. And I just thought I was accepted. And I was going to go tell everybody I accepted, but I didn't plan on going. And my mom's like, no, keep reading. And I'm reading, and it says I have to go to school in like 2 days. So I'm like, 2 days? I don't understand. And it really wasn't, I didn't get into the school. I got into this, what's called the Step Ahead program. It's a program that they have, which you have to go to school it's a summer school prior to getting into the college, and they want to see how you do. But, my grades were so low that when I submitted an application, my mom drove to the school, and was like, you got to, take my son. He can do this. And they were like, no, on paper, he doesn't really match up to what we pick. And my mom's like, no, he can do it. And my mom, I think she forced them to take me. And then I thought my mom was trying to ruin my life and my summer and all these things. And I looked at it in such a negative way because I was kind of scared to fail out again, like I failed prior. And I really didn't want to go. And college is scary for anybody, right?
Right. No doubt.
No matter who you are. But it was scary for me because I didn't want to just, do this again and fail. And I was so scared of the work. And I didn't think I could do it because that woman said I couldn't. And the next morning I woke up, and I remember I called the director of the program. I still remember his name. And I called him up and said, hey, this is Jordan Tolman. I'm not coming, right? And I remember I threw the phone off the bed, and that was it, right? And then I went to my high school graduation. The next morning I woke up, my parents had the whole car packed, and they're like, get in the car, you're going. And I had no choice. And I got in the car, and I went to this program, which really changed my whole life, without getting into in details. But this program, just give you an example. They were like, all right, welcome to the Step Ahead program. This is what time you're going to wake up. This is what time you're going to go to class. This is what time you're going to go to your next class. This is what time you're going to eat lunch. This is what time you're going to go to study hall. This is what time you have your free time. Then it's lights out, right? And we're like, parents, see you later. Your kids are going to call you. Don't pick them up. We're going to take their car keys. They don't need a laptop, and we're going to figure this out. And at that point, I was really scared, right? And I wanted to, I wanted to give up. I had anxiety. I was in my dorm room in college, and I remember I was crying, right? I didn't want these kids to hear me crying. I was in college, and I wanted to sneak out the window. I just couldn't get away, though. I had nothing, and I was forced in this situation. And I went to the bathroom, and I started to cry, and I looked at myself, and I just said, I don't know what came over me. Really, to this day, this was 2008. I looked at I said, Jordan, you have to change. And for the first time in my life, I went back to my dorm. I set my alarm for 6 a.m. Like, I never woke up. My parents always wake me up. They drag me out of bed. I would never want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I set my alarm. For the first time, I went to class, right? And I sat in the front of the classroom, and I remember holding onto the seat going, no, Jordan, no matter how bad you want to run out of, you're not leaving, right? And you're going to focus. And I've never focused in my life. And for the first time, I was 18, I passed an assignment on my own that week. For the first time, I did the assignment on my own. I handed it in, and I got a grade back. First time ever. And I couldn't believe I did this on my own. And I was like, man, I've been selling myself short my whole life. Like, I thought I wasn't smart. I thought I couldn't be a college student. I thought I couldn't do this. But all I had to do was, this school had programs in place, like really cool They had a note taker, a test reader. They had the smaller classrooms. Like, but you weren't like taken out of your class and you were just in a big mix, so nobody knew, right?
Part of the system, yeah.
Part of the system, right? So I wasn't worried about it, right? Even though in the back of my mind I was afraid people were going to figure it out, but there was no way of really proving it, right? And I would go to a learning specialist like every Wednesday in the morning, and I would talk about the things I was overwhelmed with, right? And get things off my chest, and then move on to the next situation, right? And I started utilizing all these programs in place, and I started becoming a successful student. And I started to work really hard, though. I knew that, for me, like being dyslexic and having ADHD and having reading comprehension issues, like if I read something, like I know I'm not going to get it the first time, but I know if I read it 20 times, right, or 30 times, I'm going to get it, and I have to rewrite it and read it out loud, rewrite it and read it out loud. I just have to keep doing it. And when I wake up in the morning, it's going to sink in. I know it, but maybe not like the first night, maybe like the 10th night. But I got it. I know how I have to do it, and that's what I figured out in that program. So I wouldn't get that worried if I couldn't figure out on like day 8, but I knew on day 10 I was going to start figuring it out. And I kind of mastered this way of like working really, really, really hard no matter what and getting through it. And I just did that. And then I ended up graduating this program with a 4.0 GPA from a 1.7. And
That's
then
awesome.
that 4.0 carried over into freshman year, which I was terrified to start freshman year, but I had this foundation of success when I was like, I could do this. And I was still not comfortable with it. And I was like hiding, in the tutor centers. I didn't want my new friends to know I had like this problem, right, that I thought I had. And then finally, like in the beginning of college, I was like, you know what, this is how I learn. This is just how I'm going to do it. I don't care what these people think. I don't care if these friends or these new friends are going to think of me different, whatever they want to think, right? And I just, I went to my tutors after class. I utilized my learning specialist, or really was a social worker. And, I just did things differently. Like I went to the library, they went out, right, on Thursday night. I went to the library, and I had to do things a lot different. But, I figured out the way that I learned, and I knew, the direction I wanted to go. And I was obsessed with being a good student for once in my life. I never did anything in my life. This was the first time I did something. And, and I remember I was a psych major, and I would get tests. I couldn't read the words. I couldn't pronounce them, but I could rewrite them and kind of connect them to like what they meant when I got my test. And I was able to figure it out from just rewriting these books, like till my hand went numb. And I would just figure it out that way. And I ended up graduating college with a 3.3 GPA. And I remember in high school, everyone graduates with those chords.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like everyone's a genius, you graduate with chords. I was just, a regular student wearing like just a big gown that didn't even fit me. And I remember my senior year of college, when I was with all my friends, we all got our packets, to graduate with. And I'm the only one who had these chords, and I didn't even know I was getting them. And I got these chords, and what these chords represented, there's a National Honor Society. It's nationally known. It's called Delta Alpha Pi. It's for students that are in college that graduate college with a 3.0 or higher GPA, cumulative. So cool. I got those chords for that. And I remember, to me, graduating college was like such a huge thing for me. Like it wasn't like everyone else was like kind of like a normal day, but for me, I was like I had these cords on my neck, right? And I graduated with those cords. And I remember when we went out to dinner, and we, I didn't take those cords off. I kept them on. I kept the gown off. I kept the cords on because I wanted everyone at the restaurant to see. I graduated with these cords. I associate that with being like a smart kid still.
For sure.
And it felt really good, and I accomplished so much, and a lot of times, I'll speak to kids, and they're like, college isn't for me, I shouldn't go to college, but I give them a different perspective. Like for college, I wasn't, college wasn't for me either. I'm not a good student that could just go in there and get it. I had to do the work, but what college did for me is I learned how to push myself 10 times harder than I ever would have to push. So it made me like such a better and stronger person. Like if I didn't go to college because I thought like that, I would never be the person I am today. I would have never got through all these things I've done after college. And then when I went after college and I did all this, I was going to get my master's in social work. And I remember my dad said, Jordan, do not do this again. Don't apply to these colleges. I'm like, Dad, I'm applying to one college, right? I'm going to get in. He's like, Jordan, you got denied from 15. Don't do it, right? I'm like, I'm doing it. And I ended up getting into Fordham in New York City for my MSW.
Great school.
But I ended up not going, right? Because
Okay.
I didn't go at the time. But life kind of works out that way for a reason. So I didn't go. And then I got a job actually selling windows door to door. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew I had this foundation of like, all right, I got my syllabus. I have a paper in 2 weeks. I have a test in 2 weeks. I got to start now, and I got to work really, really hard because when the 2 weeks comes, I got to be ready, right? I got to be ready for it no matter what it is. So when I got this job, I had that same mentality. Like I didn't know anything different. And the way this job works, they gave you a map and with roads on it. And they're like, all right, we're going to drop you off at 12 o'clock and we're going to pick you up 8 o'clock at night. Go sell as many window appointments as you can. So I was like, all right, and I realized everybody was walking, but I just started to run. And I ran to every door every night. And my first day on the job, I sold the most appointments in the whole office that day in New Jersey. And I was driving home that night, and the VP called me up. He said, Jordan, how did you do that? You didn't even know the pitch yet because we had to memorize a pitch. And I couldn't memorize it because I didn't get the time to memorize it because they sent me out right away.
Right.
And I realized at this point, like, school's over, right? All that hard stuff is over. Now it's different. Now I'm in the real world, right? And all I have to do is work harder than everybody else, and I'm going to rise to the top pretty quickly. This is the first time, like, I was like the smart guy, but it's not like being smart. Like I was like the guy that figured it out before everybody else.
Yeah.
Like if I just apply that to everything in my life now, you can do anything you want to do. It's not like if you're not like I'm still not a good speller. I'm still not a good writer. I'm still not good in math, but I'm a financial advisor, right? I passed all those tests. I failed 11,000 practice tests to get there. I'm one that I qualify for $1 Million Roundtable every single year, the top advisors in the world. I've purchased real estate. Now I'm a real estate investor, and I have real estate that I buy and I rent out. I've done all these things, and I started, I'm just a kid with an IEP, and really the mentality was, my whole life I was selling myself short because I thought I wasn't smart. But really that had nothing to do with it. And, like I always like to say, you think your biggest disadvantage is like this you're struggling in school, but really it's your greatest advantage because when you get out, you have like this edge that nobody has, but you got to get through like this choppy part, right? You just got to get through it without giving up, without like letting it destroy your self-esteem and go the wrong direction, which a lot of friends I had did. And they went the wrong direction when I know they could have been, this such a different person, but they let it just hang on them like this label that wasn't real.
Right.
And
well, I think that's what's so powerful about your story, right? Like it can hang on you. It can hang on these students that are listening in right now that are getting hit. It's wave after wave during that time. So it's like to know that if you kind of keep pushing the boat through it and you can get over that and even like evaluate some of your strengths or passions along the way.
Right.
To kind of hold that self-esteem intact. I think that is so huge. And that's why I think what you're doing is so great. So I want to give you a chance. I have 2 questions, then I want to get a chance to talk to you about your advocacy. But go back to when you got accepted to college, how did that start anything for you? I mean, because it seemed like that was something you were scared of or nervous about. And so to get that acceptance part, did that start to build any kind of momentum for you? Or was it, you just wanted to have a piece of paper?
Yeah, like so the college really didn't do anything for me. It wasn't that the colleges. I just wanted to feel accepted. I think like everybody else, like my brother and the
Right.
kids in school, and I wanted to like. But the thing is, I got accepted right before the school was over, so I couldn't even tell anybody.
Uh,
And I
okay.
kind of was like, I was more like oh no, now I got to go to college, And then,
Okay.
but really, I think it was when I was crying in my dorm room and I like saw myself crying in the mirror. I don't know I don't know. The light bulb just went off. I just looked at myself and I was just like, I was so used to running and crying, like and giving up on everything, and it was like taking over my life. And I think at that point I just said, this is it. Like I can't let this do this to me anymore. Like I'm here, and whatever is gonna happen here is gonna happen. But I'm gonna give it everything I got. And then that's what led me to doing that. Not going to class, doing that assignment, saying, hey, wait a minute, I just did this. And that was like the turning point right there.
That's awesome. And I think that's a great message for people listening in, that it is that looking in your mirror and like kind of maybe it is that just evaluating what it is that we want as individuals and letting that be the guide to pushing us forward, not just relying on a piece of paper, not just relying on somebody's evaluation of us, but relying on our own self-worth. And for the educators online, I think maybe it's important to give students the keys to unlock that for themselves as early as possible. So awesome message. Okay, let's talk about it. Like you're talking to some people that are in really bad like mental challenges right now that are going like that were where you were, and you're changing their lives. Like talk to us about like what that's been like, and how you're doing that.
So like the whole, like when I created I'm Just Kidding IEP, that name kind of, when I was at Centenary and I was doing better my junior year, they asked me to come talk to the child study team members that are around the area of this college. And they were like, hey, you know, why'd you, how do you feel in this college? How do you feel going through like with these accommodations with the other students? Right. I really didn't know how I felt. And I remember saying to this random person, I said, I don't know. I'm just a kid with an IEP. That's all I know. And she's like, I like that. Right. And that name stuck with me. So when I started this business, I put on the bottom, I needed who I am now to walk into my school when I was younger. And now I'm going to be that person for somebody else. And that just kind of was in my head because I had to dig back deep to how I felt again. And then I wanted to share these little stories of my life that bring out, how these other students are feeling. And I got a lot of feedback when I started to do that. And I started to reach out to these kids. And, when I give them, when I put these messages out there and I talk to them, and they write back and they're like, I thank you so much. I'm going to do that. You changed I'm crying right now because I feel so much better and I can relate to you. Right. It makes me realize like, there are so many people out there that are sitting there, like not even telling their parents and not even telling their friends how they really feel. And they're keeping it inside and they're hiding from like this learning disability that they feel is like going to ruin their life. And but if they just, hey, you know what, this is what it is. I'm going to embrace it and I'm not going to let it control me. It's actually really an advantage,
Yeah.
And then they start seeing themselves different in the mirror and they start seeing the world different. And it's like, what's next? Anything. So it makes me feel so much better that, I can catch these kids like earlier, like in middle school, in high school, before they even get to where I was. Like I got lucky getting to this college. Luckily my mom was in the background fighting, for me. But sometimes, you don't have that. And if you don't have that, you got to fight for yourself. And that's, what I've been seeing. These kids are going to start fighting for themselves earlier, and then they start seeing themselves in a different light, and then that's where they start growing that seed, that they're gonna, this self-esteem that needs to start building.
1000%. All right. Any questions on the line? Feel free to drop us. And then tell people how they can find you. I know we posted your Instagram account. Is that the best way for people to find you?
You can find me on Instagram. I have a Facebook. I'm Just Kid with an IEP, and you can find me on TikTok too. I like TikTok a lot more, but yeah, you can find me on TikTok because it's just more fun to have fun with on TikTok. But you can find me on all social media, LinkedIn. I have some YouTube, but I'm out there.
Awesome. That's so cool. Okay, so here's the rule of this deal. Last word goes to you. Any messaging that you have for whether it be students or educators or whoever you want to reach, but you get the final word of the night.
I would say, to the parents and to the students, right? I think that at the end of the day, the most important thing is just, like believing, if you're a parent, believing in your kids, like just reminding them that you believe in them, or believing in your students, right? Because sometimes they're not going to believe in themselves. And if you believe in them and believe in them and believe in them, slowly, even though you don't think they're listening. And then it's going to spark their belief. And then when you spark their belief, they're going to start picking up their own kind of label and their own self-esteem. And, you really have to continuously do that, because there's going to be points where they're kind of, falling off track. But if you're just like, hey, I believe in you, what are you struggling with? Let's get you back on track. Those things are really important, because, I didn't really have much of that, but I had a mom that used to say it all the time. But sometimes when it's just your mom, it's your mom, right?
Right.
But subconsciously, like, it was in my head,
Yeah.
so like it was important that she kept saying it. So I think that's the most important thing, because, you don't know what your kids or your students are going through. They might not be speaking to you, but if you keep reminding them that you believe in them, they can do it. They're going to get through it.
What an awesome message, especially at this month, being at Dyslexia Awareness Month. And just thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your incredible story and what you're doing. And just, we're out here supporting you all the way from Oregon. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for having me, and thank you for what you're doing, right? And I appreciate it. And, I'll be here. So if
All
any
right.
questions, let me know.
Yeah, we'll be in touch for sure. You take care. Have a great night.
All right, Jared, you too.
Keep up with the good workouts.
Thank you. Thank you.